Powered by Go Sports and in partnership with TSN. This is season 3. It's episode, what are we at now, Ray? 41, I think, are we? 41, 42. It's all kind of coming together. Anyway, it's the last episode of the Ray and Dregs hockey podcast for season 3. We can agree on that, right?
Yes, we have. We barely got to this one. Some moving parts.
You know, for those who don't watch us on the YouTube channel, both of us looking a little bit disheveled. And by the way, Ray and Dregs always presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. You've got big things planned. You've got a special dinner, so you're running around. You're doing a million things. None of them, we don't complain about our lives because we're very fortunate to do what we do and enjoy the families and the way that we do and experience life the way that we do. So for me, here's how the last 4 or 5 days went down. At the draft in Montreal, lots going on there, obviously. Get back on Saturday from Montreal. Got a tea time booked on Sunday. Go golfing with my buddies. Get a call on the 8th tee box from Holly Dreger, who says, yeah, I've tested positive for COVID. Okay, now what, right? I mean, we've got free agent frenzy on Wednesday. And automatically you go into, okay, well, let's everybody in the house start testing. So I went 8 consecutive tests, negative. The whole works, right? Tuesday night, I'm like starting to cough. Throat's a little scratchy, congested. I'm like, oh no. Test another 3 times, all negative. But that explains, of course, why I didn't make it into studio with all the good people, yourself included.
When was the last time you did so well on testing?
Yeah, it'd be a long time. But hey, you know what? I was so desperate with that home antigen test, right?
Yeah.
I took advice from Bruce Garriock. So Bruce Garriock, who also has COVID, said to me, a doctor friend of his said, well, swab the inside of your cheeks first and then ram that thing up your nose and you'll get a more accurate read. So I was doing that at one point, Tuesday night, and then again Wednesday morning before the decision was made that I wouldn't be in studio. So anyway, you know what it's like in Studio 6. It's a bit of a dog's breakfast. There's everything's happening there. But I missed it because I'm stuck in my home office, which is great by home studio standards. I mean, it's fantastic. But, you miss out on all the energy and the back and forth and whatnot. So we get through free agent frenzy, which, by the way, Ray, we shouldn't boast about these things, but I'm going to, okay?
I don't know what you're going to boast on.
We averaged at TSN 237,000 viewers over the course of the day, as compared to our closest competitor at 75,000. So that's substantial, and that's everybody involved. You guys did a great job in studio. There was a good amount of mix with the fun, which I always credit James Duthie for, and all of that. So anyway, fantastic. Get done, sign off the year. I know you're already checked out. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yeah.
You can't wait to get home fast enough. Well, I'm at home, but Mason, my son, and Holly have a 12-foot U-Haul loaded, like jammed loaded, because we're making our way to the Cabbage in Manitoba. And chop, strict instructions, 7:30 p.m. departure. We're hitting the highway and we're going to where I am now, my daughter Katie's house in Thunder Bay. So imagine that day. I feel like I have COVID, even though I'm testing negative. I got off the air at 6:30, in the truck by 7:45. I drove 8 straight hours to Sault Ste. Marie. Right. And then young Mason tagged in and he drove the remaining 8 hours to Thunder Bay. So I don't even know what
there's some of your prairie driving right there. Hey, you just got to get going.
Got to get going, man. So we'll be back on the road first thing. I don't even know what day it is. Is it Thursday today?
Thursday
so we'll be back on the road Friday morning. Had the boat and the side-by-side both delivered to the Cabbage today. So
you got it ahead of you, man. Enjoy it. Yeah. Enjoy it.
All right, well, let's rip through. There's so much to talk about, and we covered a lot of it over the course of Free Agent Frenzy, but there's stuff that continues to break and percolate, and our headlines, as always, are presented by our friends at Boston Pizza. It's always great to have them on board, and we look forward to season 4 with Boston Pizza as well. I know that I've spent some time on the Boston Pizza patios this summer. I look forward to spending a bunch more, as do you. So thank you to Boston Pizza for a great season 3. Johnny Gaudreau, is that a good place to start the headlines?
It's the only place to start.
You know, as much as I enjoy the seedy part of what I do as a hockey insider, and what that means is it's not just breaking the stories, it's the aftermath and the background and learning the stuff that went on that kind of help you understand why didn't it happen, right? And I look at what the Calgary Flames tried to invest in Johnny Gaudreau, and you know, they plunked 8 years at $10.5 million per on the table, and they thought it was getting done. And then there was either a change of heart or it just didn't get done. Obviously, off he goes to market, and we heard Brad Treliving-Ray talk about, well, it's family and it's this and it's that, and you know what, it probably is. But I guess maybe we were tricked, or I was, into thinking, well, that must mean New Jersey, or how does Philadelphia make it work? They've got to move out JVR, something like that. Maybe the wily old veteran Lou Lamoriello comes in. You know, and we had reported on the Columbus Blue Jackets being among the interested and how that was an evolving story. I just didn't expect Johnny Gaudreau to sign the deal that he signed with the Columbus Blue Jackets and leave the money on the table that he did in Calgary. I mean, shocker for you?
Well, that it was Columbus for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly Calgary couldn't do any more. I mean, they had gone to $10.5 million bucks here for 8 years. I mean, that's it. I mean, there's got to be a time when you close the door. I am interested with members of the media in particular, not the fans so much, that are like, what the hell is Gaudreau thinking? What's he doing?
Yeah.
What? And I'm like, well, so many people try to build a case for, oh, they should take a hometown discount and the players should take the hometown discount because it's better for the team. Guess what? This guy had free agency. He took an offer that was less money because he felt it was the best place for him. Mm-hmm. End of story. He clearly wanted to not go back to Calgary for whatever the reasons were. And it didn't sound like an easy decision, but at the end of the day, it was a decision that said, I don't want to go back to Calgary.
Yeah.
I do think, and I don't know this, but I do think they overplayed their hand a little bit.
Okay.
In thinking that there was more, like the Islanders couldn't make that offer because they couldn't move money out first. Mm-hmm. So they got stuck. Now the Islanders are kind of out. The Devils went to 9.25.
Yeah.
But Columbus is $500,000 more. So what is home? Home is, it's a direct flight. It's not that far. Does it have to be in the backyard? Probably not. No. I was shocked that it was Columbus because I just didn't even have it in my head that it possibly could be. However, the decision he made is his, and it's the right decision for him. It doesn't matter that the media is like, I want him to explain to me. He doesn't owe you anything.
Not a damn
He doesn't
thing.
owe anybody anything. He decided to go. Now, here's the thing about the money. Now, I'm far from a tax accountant. So the difference is about $14 million. I did a couple of quick little calculations. Take home pay, roughly. Now, don't hold me to this, Dregs, to like you're doing that I'm doing your taxes. But take home pay, he's making roughly about $450,000 more in Columbus per year than he would make in Calgary. So call it $500,000 because it's easier for my math. That's $3.5 million over the 7 years of the deal. Now you've got to add in the 8th year, which because of taxes is about 5.2 or 3 million take home or say 5.5 because that's easier math. So he's short 5.5 if he stay with Calgary. You add in the 350,000 per year, 500 grand that he's making over the Calgary money. He's out about $2 million over 8 years and $60 million.
Right.
If you're more comfortable there, the $2 million at that level, I assume, is pocket change. And so
Right.
Columbus it is. It's a shocking story and a tough one for Calgary because now they have to pivot pretty quickly. And really, they can do nothing until they find out what Matthew Tkachuk thinks. If Matthew Tkachuk is not going to re-sign, they got to move him too. If he is going to re-sign,
and then what happens?
Right? Well, if Tkachuk doesn't want to re-sign, you move him.
Yeah, exactly. Is it now not a tear down, but certainly a renovation, right?
Oh, no, it's more than a renovation because you've lost 2/3 of the best line in hockey.
Oof.
And so one of them you lost for nothing. So you do the best you can with the Tkachuk deal. If that's what it comes to. If he says he's going to sign, then you chase Nazem Kadri hard.
Right.
And those are really the two courses of action. But the first phase for a person that looked like he was gut punched in Brad Treliving is to figure out what Tkachuk's going to do.
Yeah. And that was probably immediate. As soon as Louis Gross called to say that Johnny Hockey was going to market, I would bet a good amount of money Treliving was on the phone with Newport talking about Matthew Tkachuk. All right, let's get this going. In what direction are we headed? You know what's abundantly obvious though, Ray? And it's the system. And I don't complain about the system. Lots of agents do because it's a cap system that isn't going up a whole bunch. It just isn't, and it may not for some time. But the market shriveled on Johnny Gaudreau. The market hasn't been as strong on Nazem Kadri. And look, we're recording this on Thursday afternoon. Kadri will have signed. The numbers will be there, whatever. My point being, New Jersey had a ceiling on what they were willing to pay Gaudreau. The New York Islanders, kind of, sort of interested, but just, they would have to disassemble some things and it just wasn't going to work. Same with the Philadelphia Flyers. I think that was a big surprise to Louis Gross, to Johnny Gaudreau, and maybe to a degree to Darren Ferris and Nazem Kadri and these top end guys. But if you're in management or ownership, excuse me, what are you going to do? There's only so much money in the system.
Right. So what you do is you don't spend $5 million on Rasmus Ristolainen.
Right. Yeah.
You watch where your money goes. Now, I'll tell you, one team that does it, in my opinion, as good as anybody is Carolina. And one of the reasons Carolina does a great job at it is their owner, Tom Dundon, and the GM, Don Waddell, do not go deep on contracts. I know they gave an 8-year deal to Kotkaniemi, and that's a big bet, but it's at $4 million.
Yeah.
They get Brett Burns for a couple of years. They pick up Max Pacioretty for nothing for 1 year.
Wild.
And when those guys, they either re-sign them or they move out, and there'll be somebody else. And there will be Carolina sitting there like the outfielder at center, the outfielder in the majors, pounding the glove, just waiting for the easy one to come to them because they do it again and again. Carolina lost Tony DeAngelo. They lost Vincent Trocheck. They're a better team now than they were before.
And look, they were hard in on Mason Marchment. Marchment decided to go to the Dallas Stars. He felt it was a better fit. He's got a connection there with Steve Spott and others, Pete DeBoer, go down the list. You bring up Vegas and the Pacioretty trade, and I feel like we can't just gloss over that, right? Because that had social media, not that I lean heavily on it, but enraged, just wanting Kelly McCrimmon's job. And at the end of the day, a big part of me, and you're going to disagree, I think, admires the cojones of McCrimmon, right? Because, man, when he gets to the plate, he's not just trying to drive in a single, even though you can win World Series championships with base hits and just grinding teams down. He swings for the fence every single time, and it's caught up to him, right? I mean, he moves out Max Pacioretty. He moves out Dylan Coghlan. I think a pretty good young defenseman, isn't he?
I agree.
That's the sweetener, right? He moves him out for nothing because Vegas has to comply with the salary cap. And it's a wild one.
So I will disagree with you because there are times, the go big or stay home. Sometimes just stay home. Just stay home. And so for years in Vancouver, I got I get criticized pretty soundly at the time, but I said, I think the best strategy for Jim Benning is to hide his phone on July 1st.
I remember you saying that.
Like, just don't. Yet, so it's like Vegas can't help themselves. Spend. Well, so remember, they had the 3 first-round picks their first year.
Yeah.
Right? To get Pacioretty, they traded Nick Suzuki. Right? A second, which became Fogamo, who's going to be a good player in LA, and Thomas Tatar. Right? Mm-hmm. Then to get Tatar, Vegas gave up a second and a third. And then in the last couple of years, they've lost Pacioretty, Dadonov, Fleury, Schmidt, Stastny for pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
That's where swing big, great. You don't have the cap room. You have to have a longer look other than the immediacy of that move, that moment, because they've put themselves in jail, and they're in a tough spot.
They really are. And look, this will shuffle us on to the next topic of headlines brought to you by Boston Pizza, and that's goaltending, right? You know, look, when Robin Lehner is on his game and he's healthy, and you can say that about a lot of starting goaltenders in the NHL. You know, when they're healthy, they're good. That's why they're starting goaltenders in the NHL. But there's an enormous, bold, written in a Sharpie question mark beside Robin Lehner for me. So, you know, again, would you agree with that? And then we'll dive into, you know, because you're running out of options as to how you fix that. And what Toronto, Washington, Edmonton, Detroit, maybe throw Ottawa into the mix with a Cam Talbot trade with the Minnesota Wild. They've experienced it. Like, this goalie market is pretty thin. It was really, really thin. So you better love the guy that you have. And in this case, Robin Lehner, or you're in big trouble moving forward.
Well, okay, so we'll start with Lehner. Remember, they went out and got him and then gave him a 5-year, $27 million contract, or $25 million. Did they really need to do that? Did they need to spend that kind of money? That ended up costing them Fleury.
Yeah.
It
was insurance, but
but so I don't insure my house for $700 million. Right. I insure it for the value of it. Like, why wouldn't you look at acquiring somebody to work in tandem? Now, they made that evaluation. Now you got to live with it. The second part you said about, you better love the guy you've got. I don't think you have to love your goalie anymore. Where are there 32 starting goalies? There just isn't.
There isn't anymore.
So unless you have Igor Shesterkin or Andrei Vasilevsky or Thatcher Demko, guys that can play, I'm forgetting a couple for sure, guys that can play 55 games for you, then why blow your brains out on that position? Look for a couple of guys at $3.5 million that you can pay $7 or $8 million to the position, because only one of them can play. One of them's wearing a ball hat, and that's cap space. So there are teams like Toronto's got people's jobs on the line here with Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. Now, I think it's entirely possible Samsonov outplays Matt Murray. But I also think it's quite possible that both of them are around a .901 save percentage. Then what? Then you got problems, right? It's a move of desperation. Just think, 2.5 years ago when they got Jack Campbell at the deadline, Campbell and Frederick Anderson. Then the next year it was Jack Campbell and Peter Mrazek. Then this year it's Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. You can't tell me they're going in the right direction trending-wise with their goaltending. But you get stuck in a corner, and they decided not to go 5 years on Campbell, and they didn't even really make him an offer.
No, they didn't.
So there's Edmonton saying, we will be interested. And I think Jack Campbell makes Edmonton a better team.
Yeah. And you've got Skinner coming, right? And you've talked about Skinner before and how impressed you were with him at the American League level. So they want him to get, 20, 25 starts, right? Just to get him ready. Now, you've got Jack under contract for 5 years, so you're not pushing him out the door in 2 or 3. At least you hope not, or it's a disaster. But at least you've got the healthy competition there with a young goalie in Skinner that's probably going to be a starter somewhere, maybe in Edmonton in the future.
Well, and also Jack Campbell's not exactly had a stellar injury history either. So you may end up with Stuart Skinner playing more games than you think. I just thought when I watched Skinner, I'm like, yeah, this guy doesn't belong in the American League anymore. He's too good. He's ready for the next challenge.
Yeah.
And so Edmonton's goaltending is better. It's hard for me to look at Toronto, pulling away Mikheyev, pulling away Kasha, part of a very good third line. Their goaltending in flux, and think Toronto's as good as they were in the last year. I just don't think they are.
No. Not to gloss over Washington, but again, as expected, similarly to Campbell and Edmonton, Darcy Kemper goes there. But unless you want a quick thought on that, that's fine. But I do want to shift to Ottawa and just the aggressiveness of everything. And it does link into goaltending, right? Because, there was the unrest of Cam Talbot after Marc-Andre Fleury got his 2-year deal from Billy Guerin and the Wild. That kind of unraveled for Guerin and for the Wild and for Cam Talbot. So good on Billy, man. He just steps up and says, hey, I don't give a rat's, you know what? If you don't want to be here, fine. I'll move you. I'll move you somewhere else, and we'll bring back a good goalie, which they did, and Philip Gustafson, who is probably a real.
And the question there is, how much can Gustafson play? Because Fleury's 37, and he's going to need some time at some point. You got to be careful with the workload. Now, quickly between Ottawa and Washington, the Connor Brown deal. Washington picks up Connor Brown. I mean, there's nobody I don't think that doesn't think that's a really nice move for them. But Ottawa picks up a second-round pick. They continue to have assets to move that opened up some money, which but made it easier for them to sign Josh Norris today. Their fine young centerman signs an 8-year deal. Ottawa's had a good month. They really have. They've been aggressive. The only place that they haven't really addressed yet is their blue line. And one of the things I think that happens, Dregs, is July 1st usually, but yesterday was the 13th. It's not trade deadline. Like, it's not over. So there are teams out there that have to move money. There are teams like Ottawa that are trying to improve their defense. There's still time. There's plenty of time.
Yeah.
And the pressure point will get there near training camp, but it's not over. I look at Ottawa and I'm like, how could you not be excited for the first time in a long time if you're a Sens fan?
No kidding. Euphoric is probably the word to describe. I mean, they're legit. They're just flat out legit. And everyone in the hockey world is now looking forward to seeing what comes of the Ottawa Senators. So great story, which we're no doubt will be visiting a lot in season 4. And the Battle of Ontario, this past season, the Battle of Alberta was a Battle of Alberta, including in the playoffs. The Battle of Ontario hasn't been that for a long, long time.
Can I tell you one thing that amused me yesterday? And it's a nothing thing. It just amused me to all heck. Remember when Claude Giroux got drafted and Bobby Clark couldn't remember his name?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So yesterday he's sitting on the podium. Claude,
I remember
with Pierre Dorion. And Dorion's clearly got the Connor Brown trade in his head because they're working on that. Probably was working on it 7 seconds before he sat down. And he said, we're really happy with Claude. And I'm like, man, everywhere the guy goes, nobody gets his name right.
And you guys picked up on it, but nobody seemed to pick up on it there. It was actually very.
Oh, it cracked me up. I loved it. It's funny.
Well, given everything that Pierre Dorion has accomplished, man, he's got to be running on fumes at this point, and adrenaline, because he has to be excited. Great support from Eugene Melnick's daughters, who are part of the process, right? I mean, they're in it. Their ownership, and they're fully supportive of everything that he's doing. All right, let's keep cruising here. Why don't we want to wrap out headlines? We just gave Pierre Dorion a ton of accolades here. What about Julian Brisebois and the Tampa Bay Lightning, and how this guy? I mean, when you tell me, because I'm assuming that if you had won a Stanley Cup, you would have wanted to do everything that you could contractually to stay with that group. And you would have wanted everyone who was on that team to stay with that group. And for the most part, Tampa Bay has done that. Yeah, tough decisions. And good players are pushed out. That happens every year across the league with every team. In this case, until this year, they were the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion. So he comes out with 3 8-year extensions to Cirelli, Sergachev, and Chernak. Like, that's a hefty amount of work. I mean, if you're a GM and you get one top-end player, better player, locked in long-term on an 8-year deal that you like, you're over the moon, let alone 3 of them.
Well,
I loved
they've got. I loved Mikhail Sergachev, one of the guys that signed the 8-year deal, Eric Chernak and Anthony Cirelli, the others. But Sergachev said, I think it's safe to say Julian Brisebois is a wizard.
He is.
I think of him as an assassin. Like they need to get things done. They get them done. And they're clean and tidy and quick.
Yeah.
And so a lot of teams, like James said, James Duthie said yesterday, some teams have a core of 4, and it's like Tampa has a core of 8. And I'm like, it's because some teams would like to have a core of 8. They just don't have enough good players. So Tampa's locked in here. Vasilevsky's young. He's got 7 years left on his deal. Kucherov is still young. They let Palat go, who signed $6 million in New Jersey. Oh, by the way, that opens up $5.5 million available in cap space. Anybody out there that might fit? Hello, Chicago. How would Patrick Kane look there in March?
No kidding.
Like,
really good.
It's possible. It really is. And they just are, man, they just go about their business. They're so well coached. And those guys know what they need to do. And they know what they need to put out at different stages in the regular season. Tampa's not going away yet. And as long as they got the big boy in net, they're always there.
Oof. Season 3 headlines presented by our friends at Boston Pizza. We talked about the patio. Try their new Mexican-inspired items like the Fiesta Sal, loaded Tex-Mex fries. Visit your local BP today because Boston Pizza is the place for those in the know patio. Our interviews on Ray and Dregs are brought to you by our friends at Canadian Club Whiskey, who are asking, are you over beer? Hey, why not try refreshing CC Ginger Ale next time you're having a drink or you're watching a ball game, a football game, maybe the Open, golf this weekend. And Ray, we've had a bit of downtime, not a lot. We're going to have more, obviously, in the days, the weeks ahead to dive into that classic CC and Ginger Ale mixed and ready in a can. You're throwing a party tonight. So I'm
not. I will say this.
Some of that.
Cammie's in charge of it. So she's out at development camp and, the Canucks got their thing going there. And so she said, hey, when you finish golf, I got off the plane last night at 11. I was on the tee at 7, by the way. And she said, can you pick up a few things? Can I send you a list? I got to get a few things. Nowhere on that list did I think it was going to be finish weeding the garden and spread out all that mulch in the front. I thought she was going to send me to go pick up some stuff at the store.
Yeah, no.
It didn't happen.
I thought you had people to do that. I thought you had gardeners and yard
gardeners,
staff.
Me.
And
the best part is I got 2 teenagers. They're going to be big help, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
None, zero.
Yeah, can you help me do this?
I'm in the middle of a game. That's what I hear from the video side. I'm in the middle of a game. Yeah, I'm in the middle of a pile of mulch.
Well, enjoy your time. And hey, don't be afraid, Ray, to raise a glass to the 44-year-old CC to all of your guests.
I think that could happen tonight. I think that could happen tonight. Yes, sir. Yeah. Now, are you packed up for the cabbage with the CC? Yeah. You're all set?
I am, yeah. But I'm going to have to try and acquire more of it because, look, I'm not just offering samples to everyone.
No, you got layers of guests. Layers of guests exactly right. At the cabbage.
Exactly right.
If they show up with one shoe, they don't, because I know some of your buddies, if they got one shoe on, they don't get the 44.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take the read, and when they ask for it, I'm going to say, you know what? The new 44-year-old release is available everywhere. So you can go to the LCBO and purchase your own bottle.
I like it. I like it.
Hey, no Kubit Chris this week. He's on vacation. Much earned, man. That guy buzzes all over North America. In fact, all over the planet. So he's taking some downtime. And I know you, like me, Ray, we love our chats with Chris Abbott,
yeah.
right? And so big thanks to Chris and coolbet.co for helping us out all season long. You can visit coolbet.co and enjoy their free-to-play sports and casino games all summer long. So without Chris here, you mentioned you teed it up early, 7 o'clock this morning. I always love the Open Championship because you walk into the clubhouse, right? And it's on. And it just kind of, you get there early, it gets the juices flowing. You're like, oh, okay, well, this isn't some repeat on the Golf Channel from like 25 years ago.
Okay, so let me tell you. So today I thought I would get to the course, hit a few balls, and then sit in the clubhouse part. Like, I like talking to the pros and stuff before our tee time and watch a couple of holes.
Right.
So I get to the golf course and I realize my clubs are in my garage.
Oh, no.
Turned around, scooped up the clubs, back there, 0 balls hit, 2 practice swings, 77, played outstanding, have no idea what's going on in the British Open.
Good for you. Good for you.
Hit a ball with a wedge out of bounds, too. That was not a good play. So there I am, Dregs. I'm 100 yards away. I got my gap wedge. I'm thinking birdie. I got a chance. I pull it over the bunker. Out of bounds is like 3 feet away. As soon as it's up in the air, I'm already back in my bag for another one. I'm like, no chance. But still, 77, I'll take that all day.
Are you kidding? Absolutely. So we're going to kind of poke around the odds of the Open this weekend, okay?
Yeah.
At all surprised, I'm a big Cam Smith fan. I don't know how you can't be. I mean, he's just a quirky dude, right? And can flat out play. I wonder a little bit. He's got a really solid short game, but playing the open greens, it's different. It tests the best of the best. So they've got Rory McIlroy right now plus 450 to win. Cam Smith at plus 800. Cameron Young at plus 1,000. Xander Schauffele, Ray, plus 1,100. And then you've got Scotty Scheffler, no surprise, at plus 1,100. I mean, Schauffele a bit high for you, or do you think he's ready to win?
I do think he's ready to win. He's won 2 of the last 3 or 4. The one thing after, I've been super fortunate. I've been over there a couple of times to play.
Yeah.
And we're not good enough to be patient because, you just hit the best shot you can and wherever it goes, it goes.
Yeah.
But those guys, there's scoring opportunities there at St. Andrews. But if the wind blows, it's who can be patient, who will get a bounce, who will get a break. Schauffele's one of my favorites. I'd love to see him win. But I'd also like to, honestly, I'd like to see McIlroy win too.
No, for sure. He's an all around good guy, seems to be anyway, right? And he's a fun story, and he's bluntly honest, which I always love. He brings you into his world. He's not afraid to say what he means, and I like that. Okay, I'm going to quickly just scroll through here because I want you to pick like a bit of a wild card based on the odds. Tyrell Hatton's plus 5,000. I mean, that would be out there, wouldn't it? Sam Burns, maybe 5,500. Bryson DeChambeau is plus 5,000.
No chance.
No. Morikawa at plus 4,500. Right?
Oh, okay. Morikawa is good.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah.
All right.
Morikawa before them. Yeah.
Okay. So Ray is saying take a second mortgage and put it all on Colin Morikawa. That's what he's saying.
And so now as we tape this, though, we're done the first round, no?
I know. I didn't even check. I was driving. I was like in a drive coma, weaving through forest and mountains.
Well, Cam Smith's -5.
Is he? I didn't even know that.
Young is leading. He's 8 under. McIlroy's at 6.
Okay.
I'm going to give you one other name. I don't know where he is on that list. Is Victor Hovland. He's good. He's about ready to pop.
I made a crazy bet with a buddy of mine at the start of the year. Another buddy took Patrick Cantlay way ahead, I think second overall, maybe third overall in our golf pool. And another buddy took Victor Hovland like 4th or 5th. And I was on him instantly. Why didn't you take Cantlay early? You had the first pick or whatever. And so he stood up. He said, okay, I'll bet you every tournament, like every major, Hovland will outplay Cantlay. And we bet like $25 a major. And he's got me 3-1 right now. So I'm not making stupid bets like that anymore.
No, don't pull back.
Ask Ray and Dregs anything. All season long for the last 3 seasons now, we've asked you to write in your questions. Twitter, Instagram, at Ray and Dregs, or on the website, rayandregs.com. Ask Ray and Dregs anything is presented by Doer. I'm wearing the Doer shirt right now. World's most comfortable pants and shorts. Remember, use code RND15 and you are going to save 15% off everything at doer.ca. So the first question, Ray, is a tap in, no pun intended. From Instagram, at Ops Fourth Liner, Chris Archer, is asking, what's the big golf trip plan this year, boys? And you always have a good one.
I bailed out of a trip to Ireland and Scotland, leaving August 11th, back on the 24th. And I bailed out of it because we're actually going on a family vacation. We haven't done that in forever. And I can't be gone for 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks playing golf. And then Cammie goes right back into training camp. So no golf trip this year. I've played 4 rounds. I'm going to get my money's worth at my club and then hopefully play around the province a little bit, but not a trip this year.
All right. Well, we know you'll plan bigger and better because Kenny Holland always does, right? And you've been fortunate enough to make that work over the years. And we know
I got to get on the Holland tour again.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. Twitter, at dragons_quest. I guess Jamie Weens wants us to go back to the Ottawa Senators. So thoughts on the Eastern Conference playoff standings. Can Ottawa make the playoffs with their current defense? And as part of headlines, you suggested that that's an area of need of attention. And Dorian will add. So when you're listening to this podcast, Jamie, chances are Pierre Dorian would have addressed it. But do you see them as a legit playoff contender? I think you have to, don't you?
Well, as a contender, sure. But look at the 8 playoff teams. They all made 100, all had 100 points last year in the East. Which one of them is worse? Maybe Washington.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I just think it's so hard to make it. And they've got to make up about 30 points, I think, or 35 points. Yeah. That's a lot to do. I still think they're a year away, but in that year, Jake Sanderson gets some, gets games and gets maturity. I mean, I think there's an expectation that people might end up getting disappointed by it. You got to remember, Sanderson's coming in, he's not going to win the Norris. He's just a kid getting going. He's really good, but he's just getting going.
Okay, Ryan White has a question here from Instagram, right? So it's at Ryan_B_White. Are players anticipating a trade generally more anxious on trade deadline day, draft day, or potentially during free agency? I added free agency, but you get his drift, right? Those are kind of the 3 target areas.
Deadline for sure.
Yeah.
Just because everything gets, focused right in tightly on moves. And if your name's out there, you feel it pretty hefty right then.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to post this on our social medias on, at Ray and Dregs, only because I don't know if you've been so busy, but dive into the script later today or whenever, okay? Because Brian Hutchinson, so at Propa_DJ, put together an Upper Deck Hockey name bar, Ray. Mm-hmm. And you got to see the pictures, man. So he spells Ferraro, so FERRARO, with signed Ray Ferraro hockey cards. It's phenomenal. I'm looking at it right now. They're all Hartford Whalers cards. And so Brian says, hey, Ray, what you think about this Upper Deck Hockey name bar I put together? It took me a year to hunt down all of the pieces. Love the Whalers green. So you haven't seen it. You're going to see it.
No, I've not seen it.
For Brian to do that, he deserves a shout out in the last episode. Yeah. It's phenomenal.
Yep, I'm going to look at it, and if I can sign it and get it to him or whatever, I would love to do it.
All right, final question. Ask Ray and Dregs anything from Darren Dreger. What is your favorite part of the off season coming up? If it, we've already gone through. You don't have the big golf trip, but I know that you and Cammie always do fun stuff with the kids, the grandchildren, etc.?
Yeah, you know what, Dregs? This year, for the first time in about 5 years, we're going on a vacation. And
Oh,
pandemic was one thing. I mean, nobody went anywhere, but
no.
we literally have not been on one. My schedule's been what it is. We're going to Hawaii in about 10 days, 9 days. So we'll go there for a week. But tomorrow, Friday, Landon and his wife, Emily, are having their wedding reception. They got married last
Oh,
year, but that's
fantastic.
tomorrow. So we're super excited for that. And then we'll go to Hawaii. And I'm honestly not going to do a thing. That's going to be my highlight. Like, I'm going to be with the kids, and Cammie and I'll do some stuff, and I'm going to play golf and just enjoy the time out and time off and try and get organized for next year when the time comes.
Well, I'm glad you've said that, because sometimes, and very often, those are the best times when nothing's planned. When you're shooting hoops in the backyard with your boys, or you're mucking around with a hockey stick, or you've got the putting green back there, whatever, right? It's not scheduled. It's just you and your boys spending time. By the way, in Montreal, older brother Matt and I came across one another in the concourse at the Bell Center.
Oh, in the concourse? I was just worried you were dragging him out, because
No.
I think he'd be right up your alley, Dregs. He really would. He's a prairie boy who's not a prairie boy.
I think he took a shot at you, something about the podcast. Why don't they just call it the Ray Ferraro podcast? Because you don't really talk anyway. He won't let you. Something along those lines.
I'm sure you noticed Matt's pretty shy too. He doesn't have much. It's a family trait, man.
It is. All right, buddy. Before I get to providing the shout out to all our sponsors, and I, of course, will do that in a second. A personal note. We're so busy, you especially, traveling with ESPN this year and doing what you did with TSN. I can't tell you how much I appreciate just you taking the time to continue to provide the analysis, the fun. Every once in a while, you'll swing back, because the storylines require that. But we started Ray and Dregs season 1. We didn't really know what we were doing. We thought we did. Right. We both can talk, and we're both connected to the hockey world. Well, let's do a podcast. This is great. I really feel, after season 1, I think both of us were, geez, I don't know, do we really want to do season 2 here? And then we rolled through, and we kind of found a stride. Season 3 for me has been terrific. It has been. And that's mostly because you've made it a priority. And when stuff happens, you roll with it, and you pop on the camera, turn on the microphone, and there's Ray Ferraro just living life and talking hockey. So I credit any level of success we have to you, my friend. And I
feel the same, Dregs, because thank you. I feel the same. Like, we get into this and we're debating back and forth and talking about this. People need to know the framework of the show, the connection to the guests, sending me a text and say, basically, hey, I know you forgot again. We're online now, which happened an hour ago. Dregs, you do an amazing job at what you do. We're lucky to do this. We're lucky to have the support of our sponsors, the support staff that help us get this podcast on the air. And of course, without question, the people that listen and write in and support and subscribe. Without you, it doesn't happen. So I hope everybody has a safe and fun and enjoyable summer. And thanks again for listening.
You're here. Here's to season 4. A huge shout out to our partners who make this podcast possible and make us look forward to season 4 as well. Our title sponsor, our pals at Canadian Club Whiskey, who ask, are you over beer? Thank you, CC. Coolbet.co, the free-to-play sports and casino games website. Boston Pizza. Pick it up, get it delivered to your door. Let Boston Pizza do the cooking tonight. And of course, by Doer, use code RND15 and you will save 15% off everything at Doer.ca. Thanks for listening, everybody, watching. However you get us, we appreciate it. Have a very safe and happy summer.